request. You can just reach out to department heads for the answers or questions and so forth. So again, some of these are unwritten rules, but again, I just want to let you guys know you guys have that ability and to get the answers you want or get.
Thank you.
Again, so it was a discussion today that, and Mark had some good points. I mean, a lot of this is, it's kind of learn on the job, right? We're all learning on the job. So
Yeah,
there's not a handbook to say, well, this is how things are. So, yeah. So again, obviously you guys, have questions, hey, if I wish we could do things this way, let's have the discussion for sure.
I got that done just a minute ago. So the agenda. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. No worries. I've been,
everybody gets it.
yeah, I was at a STA board meeting.
That good?
So I have it all.
Like the percentage of like the general fund.
I don't know.
So maybe is that what you're saying? Like maybe put a column like for general fund stuff, like the percentage of the general fund versus or grant or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just looking at it again last night.
Yeah. And again, see that payroll, obviously 20 payrolls, whatever. And, just depends, this is the baseline threshold of that number.
Feeling
Further
better?
than that,
Sick a little bit?
Yeah, I was had bronchitis. So I'm
I think
almost
I think
100%.
Cindy's joining us
Just a couple hours ago.
I don't know that we would have had probably time to get to her.
I might have to kick this. If I peel out of here, I'm just feeling bloated right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Drink enough water today. I just I'm feeling blah. and-
Yeah, no, I think these are great
Not
questions.
sick,
And then
sick,
also to
no,
kind of
it's
see
just
the
kinda one of
dynamics.
those-
This is
like I got hit by a truck.
departments and like to your, and again,
Years ago.
narrative, right? How much of the percentage, what was point, like, was 20.6, or what's forecast? Yeah.
Normally I would, after a couple of days, I'd
Cool.
Thank you.
just power through it and go back to work and cough, and then it would last forever. But
Yeah.
so I just decided to stay in bed. And I'm still not 100%. Not contagious.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I'm a little strange right now. What hit me, I was at the Spokane Transit Authority board meeting. Started sweating.
Oh, no. Mystery sweats.
Oh, it's
Feeling a little dizzy. I'm like,
No.
huh?
Are you sick?
I don't know what it is.
There's a lot going around right
mean,
now.
I've
I'm
had
fighting.
bronchitis for the last, well, 10 days, so I'm recovering from that. I don't know if this is
Yeah.
residual
Yeah.
virus or something, but I was feeling pretty good the last couple of days.
One or two.
A few hours ago, I just started to get. You know,
Oh, yeah.
feeling a little
Oh.
dizzy and. Timing.
Yeah.
I had
I feel like every week you have a shit back. So like just expect to be sick for a month and
I had a.
hope we adjust.
Had 3 daughters.
Oh.
So I might kick
Yep.
this off and if
Boy,
I have to, might have to peel out of here.
That's
Really, you guys have,
like literally.
not me.
My first one, I wanted to eat build this stuff. I want my
Right.
kid to do.
And
It's gonna be on.
Marcus.
And then after that,
It's gonna be
they
on
grow up.
Zoom.
No.
Same with Paul.
No.
He's got COVID.
Oh,
So does
And this
Megan.
one with the ultrasound, when they did the gender reveal, and I was just like,
she probably won't be at the board meeting
I can
next
take a
week.
hint.
God.
Anybody?
I know
Hair
it's in
center.
the water. You're.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
That sucks.
Well, the other positive things.
Yeah.
These-
Oh,
There's always
yeah.
something. It's usually with the
Because
paving
they-
roller.
they're taking out, like, only 30
You're starting to go, right?
It's 4:03.
So they're now like out of Percy and size, like Percy. But yeah, they go out to each other, and it's basically to share one shoulder. And it makes our nights and easy. I don't have to sort their clothes.
Yeah.
They're constantly at each other's throats, but
Actually, the pack.
yeah, it's
Don't make them closer when they get older.
yeah.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah, they're gonna be best friends for life.
What was that, Mark?
Yeah.
You say Todd. Todd.
Later. Oh.
Smash this. You, are you gonna kick it off and then is Cindy's on Zoom, right?
Cindy.
Yeah. Scott's got surgery again. Okay, well, I'm gonna kick this workshop off for September 18th. It's a special city council meeting to discuss our budget process and priorities. And I'll just turn it over to Todd, and I just will let you all know, if I peel out of here, I'm kind of feeling a little under the weather, and I don't know what it is, but I'll try to muscle through as much as I can.
All right.
No, not.
So, let me,
It is
let me
pretty
just get
toasty.
started.
Yeah, thanks, kid.
I think what we wanted to really discuss this afternoon, stick the discussion just to the revenues, right? If we have a full understanding of the revenues and where they're coming from and the projected revenues, then we can start introducing the budget as far as the expenditures. Right now, we have not been able to meet with department heads and go through the budgets and review the expenditures and all of that. So I'd like to keep it for the revenues to make sure we have a full understanding of what we're projecting coming in and then possibly what we need coming out into the future. So on our budget priorities, we're here at September 18th, and then we are going to meet with the mayor through the 30th. And then we have our first public hearing on October 21st. Anytime in between when we're doing the budget reviews or anything else, there is another council meeting on October 8th. If we want to tailor or we want to have a discussion outside that where we're at, we're welcome to have that discussion as well. So that kind of sets where we're today and where we're moving. And like I say, this budget, since we do have a lot of accounts, it seems like because we only meet every twice a month, that it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. I know that there's been is that, hey, it looks like we're moving too fast. When do I get to have a say into it? We're going to maybe discuss, that process and how we kind of interact. The other question is, are our presentations too long? I'm probably the worst because I have 30 plus, but I also have a lot of accounts. I can tailor that down, and that way all department heads can tailor that down, and we can just come up with maybe a couple of sheets, because if we really want to talk about the numbers, we really want to talk about other things, let me know about that, and we can tailor that presentation towards that. I think I just gave you the second. Yeah, so we're looking at November 10th. We're rolling in Public Works, and then we do the November 18th, the preliminary budget made available to the public. 25th, we hear the general government presentation, and the reason why we hear the general government, because Cindy is working hard on getting the taxes coming in, so we know we have a little bit better understanding of where we're going to land in 2025. And then also on December 6th is the final final opportunity for public comment. And you can stop me. This is not a formal presentation. We can talk at any time. So yeah, budget information, council packets, revenues. Whoop, I lost. Revenue, budget information, council budget packets, revenues, expenditures. We're looking at additional funding requests. All of that will be put in there. I know that Cindy works on basically on OneNote. A lot of that information should be feeding to you. I think it's a majority of the information, if I'm correct, to take a look at that. And then basically we will be discussing those. The budget presentation, like I said, do we maintain past department presentations? Do we really want to hear Chief Jenkins' full report on that, or do we want to just tailor them back to about 3 slides? That's, me. I would be willing to cut my presentation down a few hours. So, and we want to modify the presentation. So if we want to modify the presentation, let us know what you're most interested in so we can present it, and then we can back off for you guys to have that discussion instead of us taking all the time and running it way late, and you feel like, oh, it's getting late. So let us know your thoughts on that.
Really quick, Todd, we discussed a little bit the 3-slide outlook today in Public Works, and when we were saying 3 slides, kind of just a summary of the accomplishments from the year, maybe second slide, just a quick comparison of last year's budget to this year's, big picture. And then maybe third slide, kind of, hey, these are the needs. And again, not that we don't want to see everybody's presentations, but historically, some of those presentations have been recycled and recycled. And I'm not beating you guys up. It's just, I think that a 3-slide operation will offer more discussion and more interaction.
And we
Is-
have done in the past where we do just department updates. If anytime informational, hey, where are we at with a certain department or anything outside the budget season, we would be happy to prepare a presentation of what we're doing to that end. Yeah, we're probably going to address our goals, our accomplishments. That way you're kind of up to date of how we operated in 2025. And like I say, the most important thing is that once we understand the revenues and once we have those projected, then we start talking about the expenditures. And then if there's additional money, it's additional priorities, we'll work through all of that process to get where we're going. The main thing is that we want to also do that projection. You know, if we add new things or things that, you know, one-time costs or continuation, such as labor, what does that look like and how we have that? And that's a fair, depending on the account, that we are able to sustain that and not let that go away, you know, and have to lose that. So I'll take it for enterprise funds. So enterprise funds, if I have more, if I hire more people or anything, and I'm short, hopefully you would consider a rate adjustment because of that. And then we got that revenue source. General fund, not so much. I mean, we don't have a council that can actually authorize, you know, more taxes without certain processes or votes. So, and we can kind of, if you have those questions, we can kind of educate you along the way. But then that's a good point. What is it? What is additional revenues in the future? What can that look like? You know, to that end, as far as the general fund, you know, enterprise funds, we're basically rates and capacity charges. So I'm going to try to keep the discussion within maybe the revenues, and then Cindy is on Zoom for us, and I can kind of present all of her spreadsheets, and she can weigh in at any time, and we go from there. You do have a copy of them, so I'll just kind of pull through them, try to explain. If you have any questions, let me know. Obviously, the beginning fund balance, that's what we have as a somewhat of a carryover. We've started that in the past few years where we did bring all of our cash over into the beginning fund balance as an estimate of what we're looking at. So when you talk about budgets, obviously the budget is an estimate, and that's an estimate at the beginning of the year. Sometimes that's changed. Sometimes I don't pull projects, or sometimes I don't have things that went bump in the night. So I have those savings. Enterprise funds at the end of the day, we get those cashes back in the same department. General fund kind of goes back into the general fund, and then we start that budget process. Cindy?
So Todd, on the beginning fund balance, everybody just please remember that is not all money that is spendable. I put all of our money up there, our operating reserves. I put any restricted reserves we have. That is all of the cash I think is going to come forward and there's some of that for various reasons. Opioid money is a good example of money that we can't spend just on everything. It's reserved to spend on certain things. So the fact that that had $4 million there, I don't think we're going to have $4 million in spendable money. I think we'll be lucky to have 3.1 is what my guess is at this point. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind.
And that will all be kind of shown as we go through the expenditures, how we're going to spend that. Because certain funds are allocated to certain purposes.
So just to clarify real quick, so that includes like the equipment reserves, like the fire truck money, all of that is in this for, okay.
Yeah, so there's two places that there's equipment reserve. So there's one here. Yes, we have $1 million sitting in the general fund that we are budgeting every year. 2025, you remember, we didn't get to do that. We didn't have enough money. But so that money sits there in reserve and can't be spent on anything else. We're just holding it there they also have some money for a fire truck in their fire equipment reserve fund, but that's another story for another day. So we're just talking about the general fund. And yes, there is $1 million, and that's part of what that is. Correct.
Thank you.
So the 310 fund taxes, that is all of our includes property tax levy. And now when we talk about the gas tax and the utility tax, that is, Cindy, that is separate from our 4.1 both our taxes that do our preservation and our parks?
Correct. Those go, so, if you look at your electric bill, you have, under electric, so what you pay in that, you pay 6% on your electrical or natural gas usage, and that goes into the general fund. You pay 4% that goes into a totally separate dedicated account for the residential street, and you pay 4.75% to a totally dedicated account for parks and recreation. But the part that just plain 6%, that goes along with your sewer and your garbage and your water utility tax. And that's what is under that 316.40.70. So that does kind of go up every year, because when you think about, you all approved 5-year rate increases for all the utilities. So every time there's a rate increase there, the utility tax actually goes up there as well. That's it, Todd. Sorry.
Okay, so you can see the history of just and we have several other accounts to go through. You can kind of see that budget for the taxes.
Cindy, the second column from the right, year to date, is that through end of August?
It's actually through 9/18.
There, sorry. No, so for revenues, that's pretty much up through, and I say revenues posted through 9/18, that's just because it got printed today. I updated those revenues, I believe, on Monday. So, but when you think about that, anything that's utility, like our utility taxes, or when you get into enterprise funds, electric, water, sewer, and garbage, we actually show those revenues when we send your bills out. I don't necessarily have the cash yet, because when the cash comes in, that goes through it's an accrual accounting. But when we bill, we assume we're going to get all that. So I give the revenue, and I'm assuming the cash is going to come later. So that means we have actually billed in utility taxes $924,000. And so we still have billing for September, October, November, December. You have to think about the cyclical nature of utilities, though. I mean, electric has most of theirs in the winter, obviously, where water does all their water sales. Probably this end of September is going to be the last. A lot of people are blowing them out now, their sprinklers. So the end of September will be the last water sales. Once you get into October, November, and December, there's not a lot of water sales going on then. They get their base charge, but not the sales. So those are kind of things to think about.
That's a good point, because when we took a look at our utility rates and our water, we were finding out, for that same purpose, we didn't have enough cash flow even to basically make payroll in some of the operations, because we weren't making enough that much on the revenue. We had to wait to get that revenue in the summertime as that goes up. So that it kind of evens out. So that's kind of that purpose of accrual.
Just a quick comment. It looks like sales tax is a little bit light through the year to date.
Not necessarily, because the sales tax that we get in January and February got credited to last year, because the state is 2 months behind in sending it to us. So what you have right there is March through August. That's what the sales tax is. So you still have September, October, November, December, January, and February. You still have 6 months of sales tax. I think we will beat our sales tax from how I'm looking at it. I think we'll easily make our sales tax number this year
Okay.
that we have
thanks.
budgeted.
Yeah, so we should supersede it then.
Yeah.
It depends, I mean, it just kind of depends on sales. Cheney doesn't have a lot of highs. When I talk about sales tax, we don't have huge highs and we don't have huge lows. We have a kind of a steady growth, and a lot of our sales tax, relates back to the building industry. So if we're not building a lot, our sales tax kind of seem flat. I have noticed this year that our sales taxes have rebounded from last year. Last year, they weren't as robust as I thought they would be. And so this year, I think that they have made up for that a little bit. We actually are ahead of last year. The last time I looked, I think it was like 7% or something. So we're doing fine with our sales tax.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we didn't have a really big building year, if you think about it. I mean, we rely, EWU doesn't have a real big building year. We didn't do a lot of new construction. Hopefully that will change. License and permits. Oh, I'm sorry. Was any more questions on that? Obviously, they're pretty much self-explanatory. Fireworks permits and building and structure, plumbing permits. Yeah, they're down a little bit, it's just because if we don't have a real big building year. So that it hopefully with the planning of the properties and everything else that we'll start seeing. Single family home, Lennar was approved, they came in with 20 some plus houses, like 20 houses, and built them all at once. So those should be, happily, they can come to, selling those. So, but they are. So the other one would be part of that addition. Cindy, anything on licensing permit? Intergovernmental rental, for revenues.
Okay, I'm here now, Todd. Sorry, I was on mute. I just heard you were talking about, I'm having a hard time kind of hearing. I'm hoping you're talking directly into the mic. Licenses and permits, those kind of go, I think Todd was saying, by the building industry. Do we think we're gonna make our 100,000 for building? I don't know. That's a Todd question. I know that there's, things getting ready to be built as far as houses. Once they drop those permits, those get permitted there. And then, of course, they take sometimes into the next year to get them inspected by our building inspectors and released. So although we take the money in up front, we have work to do sometimes a year after that. So that's there's personnel costs after that because we take it up front. Those are the biggest ones in those licenses and permits. We still, we get a few concealed pistol permits. The building technology fee is a fee that's authorized to help with their technology that they need. So that just kind of goes into their current year's budget. And of course, foreclosure registration is for buildings that have gone through foreclosure. So there's not a lot going on there, but the building permits is obviously the biggest one under the licenses and permits for sure. There's not, now when you look at the intergovernmental revenue, if I can just have a minute. So that other judicial agencies, that's the therapeutic court grant. And that should be just an even match between what we're spending in therapeutic court. So it's therapeutic court, plus it's the money we get from the state for our public defender costs. So that's what that is. So I budgeted that just based on what therapeutic court budgeted for expenditures. So that should be completely paying for itself. That's under the court side. That $75,000 under the Airway Heights Mental Health, that's, we have a behavioral health officer in the police department. And I know a grant that we were receiving money from Airway Heights that kind of works with this whole mental health piece. I have no idea what that's going to be next year. None. I asked the police and we met about their budget and they really didn't know either. So I stuck 75 in there because I don't know. I think that looks like it might be logical. It might be a little bit low, but no one had any idea. I had to put something in there. So that's what I put.
Cindy, I was talking to Albert Tripp and Chief Richmond recently, and there's a
Yeah.
pretty good chance we're gonna get that grant again.
Okay, awesome. That would be great. The ones
Better-
that the accounts that start with city assistance and go down to liquor board profits, I get those dollar amounts directly from MRSC. They put out a budget suggestion book every year, and you can go look at your town and put in all of the stuff that you get, and then it just lists all the revenues that you're probably going to get from the state. And they go through a lot of analytics and a lot of effort to have those. And I've always budgeted what their suggestion was, and it's always pretty darn close. So that's where those numbers come from.
Questions? Okay, you're gonna have to read that one. I'm not gonna even, I'll say it right here.
So
It's a big one.
charges for goods and services are anything we charge people for. It's not a grant, it's not a fine, it's not a permit. So if we charge someone for something, this is where it lives. So you have a mix of things. So when the court, they get all of their work from the police department, obviously. And so as they process that, some of that becomes money that we get to keep at the city. Some of it is money that we have to send on to the state or a percentage thereof. But this is the money that we get to keep as a city. And the most prevalent one in the court is going to be the probation fees. So we get, and those are down in the second section. It starts at, I think, 342.33. So they have probation fees and housing and monitoring of prisoners and booking. Those are all their things. The other big ones in there are, of course, the EWU public safety contract. That's the fire contract. So we're at 922.1 here, and then there's 40,000 of it that's diverted over into the fire department equipment fund. So overall, it'll be about $962,000 this year. That particular contract has an automatic riser in it that goes by the state growth rate. When it was originally that contract was originally settled, it went and looked at assessed valuations on various buildings, and then it came about on that, and then it had these risers on it. Is it probably time to look at that again? Probably, because they've had they've had some building improvements up there, and maybe that would make a difference. But that's where it is right now. The contract's still active, and so that's that 922.1 that sits right in the middle of that listing. Up at the top, you see the finance and executive charges and public works admin charges. So public works is simple. Public works admin is Todd and some of his staff and their needs. It's a division, and it is 100% funded from contributions from street, water, sewer, and garbage. 100%. So although it's in here because we pay them out of the general fund, so it's just a like revenue. So it's a complete net wash. The finance and executive charges are what we in finance and what the mayor's office, we all collect our time throughout the year as well. And this is the time that we spend on utility work, on electric, water, sewer, and garbage. And then we bill them for that. And so this is based on what the actuals were for 2024, because 25 isn't over yet. I came up with, I have a percentage of each employee that is paid for by the utility departments. A good example is my three clerks at the front of finance. They're like 95% utility paid because all they do is billing and customer service and signing people up and taking their payments. That's pretty much what they do. So they're almost completely utility. Someone like me, where I also have governmental work, someone like treasury or, accounts payable when they're doing the whole city, theirs aren't quite as large because they have governmental, they have police, fire, streets, finance, admin, they have all the things they work on in addition to light, water, sewer, garbage. So that's about a $1.4 million. It's probably about what it's going to be, I would think. But that was my best calculated guess when I looked at that. Outside of that, when you look down at the very bottom, anything that's at 345.81s all the way down, those are all fees from planning. So someone comes in and they want to do this, they want to have a fence, they want to build something, they have to have their plan reviewed. These are all charged revenue we receive from all of those charges that the planning department then makes to people when they want to do something within, with their property within the city. So those are all of our charges. So there's a bunch of little ones in there, but those are the major ones I talked about. So I'm happy to answer or explain further if you had any of them you would like to know more about.
All right. Fines and forfeits.
Those are 100% court collected fees. So the police go out and they write the tickets or they make the arrests. People go to court, they get fined. This is where they go. And these are 100% ours to keep. So they're just court fees. So these go, in my little spreadsheet, these go in total support of the court and the budget that we give the court because this is revenue they bring in. I will note that on the parking meters, it's 354.1101. That is the parking meters that are up on Washington Street, all up, not meters anymore, the little signs now, but people that pay for parking. So any tickets there's a ticket issued, and then we split that ticket revenue back with Eastern again. So I send that to them quarterly. The overdue portion, though, parking meters, EWU overdue, we keep 100% of anything that's delinquent. But we do the initial ticket, share that with Eastern.
Questions? Good. Miscellaneous, mostly interest.
Mostly interest, and I think we all realize that interest rates have gone down. So I don't think there's any way we're gonna hit the 358 from 2023 or the 269 from 2024, given that we're at 119 through August. You know, when you look at revenues and how they're performing, we talked about that sales tax was probably gonna come in higher. But that money is gonna have to offset this interest that's coming in lower. So when you look at revenues, you can't just look really at an individual revenue and see how they're doing and then want to go spend that money, if in fact it's more, because we have to look at the general fund revenues as a whole and collectively to see how they're performing. But yes, miscellaneous is pretty much interest. Unless we sell something.
Questions? Other source? Yeah, that's pretty much self-explanatory. I'm
Yeah.
assuming maybe we were gonna project some sales of surplus.
You know, it would be the case, but I mean, general fund itself does, I mean, they hold some, but they certainly don't hold all the sellable assets that utility, do. So this is pretty much just used as necessary. We don't often have insurance proceeds. But yeah, if there was a sale of a capital asset, this is where it would live. And that's it.
So when we put all that together,
So on this very last one, I took out that beginning fund balance just so you could see what the actual budgeted revenues were. And the reason I did that was because I think it's important for us to focus on the revenues as a whole right now. And then as we get closer and I can better estimate how much cash I think we're going to have to carry over to help add to the revenues, I will be updating that when we do our revenue presentation the end of October. But for right now, and I keep looking at these, I look at these all the time and I adjust as I kind of, oh yeah, maybe this will work, but it's just a constant adjustment, a constant review and a constant analysis of how they're doing.
I think my only question is, so it's got negative 27% projection, correct?
Yeah,
That's taking into account the beginning fund balance.
it is. It is. So I should have blocked that out as well, that 4671. You're correct. If we took that out, that number will be different. Absolutely. I
Thank
just
you.
looked at that myself. Absolutely.
And there's a reason why we have to keep a bunch of cash because we only get paid sales tax and property tax April and October. So in between those, we got to cover payroll and everything.
So, I mean, that's the thing about our particular reserve is that, there are places that have a specific operating reserve and they have enough in their just general cash to cover their cash flow. We don't have that kind of money. We use that one pot of money to cover both our operating reserve and be our cash flow. And it gives us more money than to spend on services by doing it that way. We do get sales tax monthly, but we do get our property taxes. We get the big bulk of that April, May, and October, November. And so other than that, it's just like utility taxes and sales that carry us through, which we have some big payrolls anymore. If you look at when you approve payroll and look at that general fund, it's big. So we have to be able to cover that for sure.
that's my 3 slides.
Good.
Perfect. That's
And,
helpful.
and basically you want to open it up for discussion and we can just keep it on the revenue sides for discussion. We can move on to maybe another categories. I'll sit back and
I guess, no, go ahead, Daniel.
I was just gonna say, I think like looking at all of this and the projected revenues, I think I would love to get more information on the possibilities of generating additional revenue. I think that's our biggest hurdle we have coming up. So,
That's exactly where I was gonna go and just see if we wanted to have an open discussion as to maybe some of the opportunities. I know, Jason, you and I have talked a little bit about stuff you've learned from City of Spokane of different potential, they may be smaller generations of fees and such that would come up as revenue. A couple of the ideas, again, some of these will be popular, some of these won't be very popular, but I'll throw out a couple things and I just figured if we can kind of go around and just throw things at the wall and see what makes sense. I'll start with, the Sterling Mormon House. I think that has been vacant for, gosh, maybe 10 years now. And it would be, I don't know, I would love to see that occupied, and I think it's in a commercial zone. I think the last time we looked at internally using it, it wasn't really feasible for, I think, the police conference room. So that, to me, that represents an opportunity. And again, I'm just gonna spitball and throw a bunch of them, but I definitely encourage you guys to throw things out too. Where the Cheney Community Garden is located, and again, knowing that there is obviously sewer and water infrastructure, I think that's at the end of our second. That to me would be maybe a higher and better use in housing. And knowing that obviously we're working on the Purple Pipe project, I could see maybe relocating the community garden somewhere where they can benefit from the Purple Pipe. Whether that's the 50-acre park, whether that's, again, that's to be determined, but maybe that's by the UB building. So that's, utilizing that land for housing versus gardening. And again, there's nothing I have against gardening. It's just highest and best use. I know we've talked in the past about, either banners or, teleprompters, big screens, kind of like what Northern Quest has. Whether it's, communicating, a would you?
The marquee.
Marquee. Yeah, electronic billboard, that kind of mindset. Obviously, at times we give public service announcements, but there could also be opportunities to make revenue from, private announcements. Zips has whatever, 5 burgers for $20, those kind of things for local businesses. So I think that's an opportunity. I think potentially whether it's the pool or the dog park or somewhere, maybe banners on fences. I know the high school does that. The rodeo grounds does that also for their kind of banners, billboards. That's a potential revenue generator. I know we've talked about Purple Pipe, potentially a fill station for like water trucks versus filling, from more of a potable source. And a fill station, to give you an example, there's one off of Garden Springs exit. If you guys just take that, that's. Yeah, that's right. So that's an example of what I'm talking about is a fill station. If that could, and I have no idea what that could generate income wise, but I think that's a better use of that water than chlorinated water. Those are a couple. I'm sure I'll probably have a couple, and I know that Jason, I know you kind of had some ideas, I think too, from like I don't know if they originated from the city of Spokane or your time of city of Spokane, but.
I just made them all up.
Or you made them all up. That's good too.
No, my main one, and I've discussed this with a few of my fellow council members too, but I think we need to have a serious discussion about a grant writer. Doesn't have to be an FTE, doesn't have to be any certain way, but I think there's a lot of money out there that we don't have either A, the bandwidth, or B, the skill set to go after. And I think that's a source of revenue that we really need to take a look at, because no one wants to hear about increased taxes. So what other avenues do we have? I think going after grants is a really good way to do that. And from what I know about going after grants, it's not an easy thing to just sit down and write an essay. You got to have a very good skill set for it. So I don't know what that would look like. I've done some preliminary Googling on my end and a little bit of research, but I think that'd be a good discussion for us to have as a group.
You had also talked about admissions tax.
Yeah, I mean, there are taxes out there that aren't named sales tax and property tax. There are ways to get small incremental amounts of revenue that aren't burdening every single person. Like, for example, an admissions tax it goes for events that people are choosing to go to. So And it could be as small as 1%. So you buy a $10 ticket, now it's an $11 ticket. There are things out there like that. I'm not saying that's something we need to stick to, but there's a lot of things that aren't just named sales tax, property tax.
Two other things, I think those are really good. Two other things I forgot that I was gonna mention too. Maybe just kind of capitalizing off the rodeo grounds, trying to bring in more events. Um, everything from, you name it, dog shows to just different, I mean, I recall 15, 20 years ago, they had a motocross event there. And I know somebody that is in a circuit with a demolition derby. I think they run a demolition derby at the county fair too, but just different type of events, whether it's flea markets. I know we have the circus there sometimes and different rodeos, but I think there may be opportunities there to capitalize off of those type of fairgrounds. I had one more, now it slipped my mind. I'll come back, sorry.
Industrial park, maybe.
Yes, thank you, that's what it was. We talked a little bit in Public Works Department. Sometimes obviously you have to spend money to make money. There are some grant opportunities out there to explore. I think it's about an 80% grant, but whether it's more on the planning of how to get more businesses, maybe to the downtown core, or maybe it's, starting at one shell of an incubator business out of the industrial park and seeing if that will snowball. Stuff, and that kind of spins off of the grant idea also.
Yeah, WSU does that. They're called Schweitzer, and that was the same concept. So, we do have a university in our town, and if students was to invent something, they can't, and through their patent process, they can't develop it on campus site. So that's why you would maybe take an incubator to get their businesses up and running, and then all of a sudden, whether they stay or whether they go, WSU, Schweitzer stayed, they've been there for years. That's kind of the concept. We've explored that a few times with the university. It might be good to explore that again. And I will put in our new aquatics facility. I say we have an event every weekend. And Dan's gonna probably smack me on the back of the head, but those are other things that we can do because it is centralized in those areas. It's set up as a stage for concerts. It's everything, if we can kind of focus on that.
One thing we had kind of all chatted about at some point was, looking at maybe, some sort of vacancy, commercial vacancy registration, not a tax, but a registration, because there's still an impact to our city and costs of like protection, all of that. And yet that we're not bringing in any revenue from sales tax or anything from those spaces, and maybe like as an incentive to fill those spaces with something. So I know we've chatted about that a bit. And then the only other one, I know I don't want to take Jeff's thunder, but I feel like we had talked about impact fees in public works. And I do think that that's something that's really worth looking into, as well as renegotiating the fire contract substantially.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense maybe to try to figure out if there's certain assessments or impact fees, and Jeff did get a good example. We have a very expensive ladder truck. It doesn't work on residentials. We're covered with residentials, but why we need that is for the taller buildings that we have all over there, and trying maybe to kind of figure what that would look like. So that, yeah, I think some staff and everybody, we're trying to figure this out, and as we move forward to see what additional type we have.
Jackie, anything?
Somebody to work on economic development. That kind of goes along with that grant writer. And if we're trying to bring in more businesses to the industrial park, like we need somebody who that's their whole expertise.
Yeah, I'm right now, I talked to a few people, but I'm exploring going after a curb grant for economic development in two areas, one in the downtown and one out in the industrial park. Don't know if we qualify, but I'll know around the first part of October. And if we do, I'll bring back that information.
But yeah, no, I think everybody's brought up some really great ideas. And so moving the community garden, I know that thing is pretty well established at this point, but I also know that it is full and that there are no plots available for newer people to come in and do that. How much buildable land do you think that is there? Like, if you had to like take a rough estimate, how many houses do you think fit on that spot?
My rough estimate was probably 15 to 18.
Okay.
And again, that's just, that would be single family, but if we
Yeah.
went duplexes, you know, maybe,
Double it.
yeah, or, yeah.
And then, yeah, because right next to Centennial Park and it's a path, there's a walking path that leads like right to the high school. So it's a good spot.
Is there, do you know if there's a wait list to get in the community?
Last time I looked, there had been a wait list.
It's-
Really?
Yeah,
That might
I-
be another reason to find a
So,
spot that's bigger.
Yeah, and so I was wondering, because a lot of people have asked what we're doing with the 50-acre park, because we haven't really done anything with it. I know we can't build any like permanent like building structures, but I think moving it to the 50-acre park, it might actually be a really solid plan, because then we could expand. Do you know, like, do we charge a fee to people to have a plot there? Like, is there any sort of like fee
No,
associated with
there's been
that?
some past agreements and I think what we, well, they pay for the water, so it's not an out of cost expense there. But we ask them to donate a certain portion of their growth to the, food establishment. Food bank.
Yeah,
But no, I'm unaware of any fee. No.
like a permitting fee or something like
Yeah,
that, so.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how well it would generate revenue other than freeing up that space for new building. But yeah, I like the idea of potentially moving it to the 50-acre park. I feel
it
like
gives-
it's a good spot of town. We can reuse the water. That was a really good point. And I don't know if it would be wise to necessarily assess a fee for having a spot there, but I like, at least like the idea of getting more people in there and seeing if we can expand it and then free up some of that other buildable land.
Yeah. It'd be, to your original question, I would guess maybe an acre or two. I don't know what your guess is, but we could probably calculate what the plots
Yeah,
are.
I can provide information on where that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, cause like, I feel like, cause I mean, I've gone through there a ton. Dedicating space at the 50-acre park would be really nice, especially that's if we have access to the purple pipe right there. And we can use recycled water instead of fresh water.
Do you guys know where the green bins are, the recycling center across the street the city owns? I want to say that's about a 6-acre parcel. And the purple pipe goes right through there also, and
That'd be a good spot too. Oh.
that might be a good, yeah.
Do we sell our compost that we? Okay, because that might be another thing we could tap into if we've got that garden right there. They may not be paying a fee, but we could sell them the compost.
We actually help them out on that and we give them just so much compost to keep that beds going to that end. And they do, sometimes they'll buy their own compost just.
I have a quick sales tax question. But for the industrial park, if we get an industry in there that ships items out, we don't retain the sales tax? How does that, because isn't it tax based on your zip code?
No, it is destination-based sales tax.
So
So anything that's delivered to Cheney, we get sales tax on. But for instance, if I go in and if you went in and bought a new refrigerator at Fred's and picked it up, Spokane gets the sales tax. If you have it delivered to your house, we get the sales tax.
So we really need somebody who's gonna find businesses that are gonna
Keep the.
keep
revenue
the
low.
sales, yeah.
But keep in mind also the utilities for industrial are
Well,
higher,
Yeah,
sale or property tax for industrial are higher too. So we may not be getting on the sales tax end of things, but from the
And
property
bringing in more
and
employment.
employment,
Which
better
people-
jobs.
People's spending power.
okay,
So,
okay,
and if they're here working, they're presumably spending money here too.
yeah,
So
okay,
it's-
okay. That makes sense.
As long as we're spitballing, RV park. We have a lot of open space in the 50-acre park where that could potentially generate some revenue and fill in towards events and games. That was one that was discussed.
That's right. I forgot about that. Or a little par 3 associated with,
Okay.
because again, capitalizing off of the purple pipe at the 50-acre park, you have that to irrigate. So
Let's leave that.
I thought there
Thank you.
were certain conditions for using the 50-acre park.
There.
We asked about that one, and that one, I believe, is allowable.
Oh,
We could double check, but we were talking about, ice skating rinks and all sorts of stuff that's kind of that open concept that anybody can.
Yeah, 'cause as long as it's not an enclosed building, correct?
I think it was the conference center that was kind of.
Conference center was,
But
That would be a
it's
good thing.
cool
The
now
par
to
three
be-
would work.
The pool space to be able to utilize as event space for that sort of stuff. That offsets the lack of use, I guess, at the 50-acre park for indoor event or conference type
I
stuff.
wish RCO would think that way.
Yeah, that would be nice.
the, acreage on that one is at 1.64, and just a rough estimate, probably get around 12 units. Something.
1.6. Oh, I thought that's bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of land.
What do you think on did you have any plans or master plans, across from the green bins, that 6 acre piece with?
No, the only thing that we looked at is because we are getting, the green bins are really under. I mean, we load them up just about every day, and we're going 7 days a week, emptying that. Where we may, shift our more of a pad where people could actually dump instead of dumping into a big bin. We have that concept kind of talked about where they can drive in there and they dump their clean green right there, and then we could actually get that operation a little bit better, maybe move our grinder over and not have that labor intensive of hauling it back and forth. But there's a lot of space back there.
So you wouldn't use the full 6 acres, maybe half of it or
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah, it would just be a small.
One more question. When it comes to like contracts, is that something that is looked at? Okay, I know cheaper is not always better, so I'm not saying, but like some of the contracts for like IT, insurance, like is that stuff that's looked at every year? Or is that something that is just kind of like, we've used one company for like a long period of time, and we continue to like?
We've have it done in the past. We've gone back, whether we're not happy with our IT department, we made some changes, and we've gone out for an RFP for these type of cost. And, as far as the insurance, we do go through our own, WCIA, that pool. insurance. Yeah. But, Cindy, are you, we've been with Executech for a while, but I remember we went out for an RFP. Was that correct? A while back?
We did go back, I believe that was about 3 years ago, maybe, and it's a 5-year contract. It does have some extensions available on it. The whole IT world is a lot different than, so this is not only IT and, getting our computers up and running, it's all of our security. There's a broader scope of services that they provide. Certainly, I realize it's not cheap. I totally get that. And then, of course, they're the customer service desk, and you would be stunned with how many tickets they get daily from different people for different things, some of which might be broken hardware. Some of it might be, how do I do this on Excel? I mean, they have a wide variety of scope that they help with that. Right now, they have, what we're working on right now is Windows 10 expires. I'm sure everybody knows that. If you have Windows 10 on a computer, it's expiring. And so any computer that was purchased in our 2020 lot, we replaced a bunch of computers in 2020. And now those computers will not take the Windows 11 update. So we now just issued a bunch of purchase orders from a bunch of different departments, and everybody had the opportunity to really look at what they're using their computers for. We went to a lot of dockable laptops instead of having a laptop and a desktop. So it's just one piece of hardware. So that's a piece in IT, and that was a suggestion of theirs, that they thought we would be much more efficient in that way. So not only do they work for our IT needs, they do our network security, they do all of our network connection. They also come forward with a lot of suggestions. First, when they can see some efficiencies for us. I think, having been in charge of IT with our prior company and with this company was more expensive than our last company, and it's because of the security piece of it. And that's the reason we went with that, is because I really feel that the city is in a much better place from outside threats than maybe we used to be. And so that, helps, I think, all of us sleep a little bit better at night. But yeah, after the 5 years is up, the city certainly has the ability to look at that and go out for an RFP and see if there's anything better out there. Absolutely. On my list to get done this year, I still need to do it, is we need a new phone system. And so we need to RFP our phone system and see what we can get and see what that's going to look like. That's going to be spendy, but I'm hoping I have enough money in the IT reserve to pay for the majority of that, that I'm not going to have to put a lot of that back on the departments. I'm hoping. We'll just have to see. But yeah, insurance, we are in a co-op with all these other agencies, Washington City's Insurance Authority. And by being in this large group, it does help keep even though our insurance seems really high when we pay that bill, in January, being with this group of other cities, and they control the risk base, they control how you have to handle things, how you have to insure it in order to keep the risk lower and keep our rates as low as we can. That's managed by a board, and Paul Schmidt can probably speak to that. I think he sat on that board for some time. And so they really look at the risks that the cities have, and they address those if they see something happening in a city. We have an annual review. I sat through that about, a month and a half ago, where they come in and look at our claims this year, over the last 5 years, what that looks like. And so they're pretty involved with us at that way as well. I don't know that it would be cheaper for us to go outside. Between all of our buildings and all of our property and all of our equipment, it's just a lot. We insure a lot. Paul, do you have a comment on WCIA? I see you up there in a little corner.
No, very well said, Cindy. Yeah, it's under the pool concept where I think WCIA, roughly 190 to 200 cities, that is a very proactive organization. Where very selective on who gets to be in the pool based on how they assign their risk. And as Cindy noted, and they're there to help us in a lot of our endeavors. One of the bigger risks we have is for planning. I don't know if you saw in the paper where there's a city in Washington now has just had to file for bankruptcy because they did a poor job of planning, and a developer really took them to that task. I don't know if they're a WCIA member or not, but I would agree with Cindy. We'd be very hard pressed to find the equivalent services and risk insurance that they provide for us. And as I noted, they're also very assertive. When we have a claim, they'll work with us and they'll defend us on any and all sorts of claims brought forward to the city. So yeah, they've been a great addition. Years ago, every city was on their own, and a lot of us relied on just your local insurance broker, and you dealt with those rates just for property insurance. And then liability is another whole deal. So we've come a long, long ways, and it protected a lot of our assets. And I feel very comfortable that we are still a member of WCIA for all those reasons. Thanks.
If there's any areas in the city that we could look at for efficiencies that would help lower our liability or risks? Like, I know you mentioned planning, but like fire or public safety aspects, that maybe there's things we could do that would help lower our risk and lower that premium.
I think the fire department's been doing a good job lowering the risk, but one of the things we've been talking about at Public Works is just the hydrant replacement program, right? We have a little over 400, and as long as we can try to get, 5% of those replaced, I think the life expectancy on a lot of hydrants, we're pushing 50 years on some. So to me, that's one of the biggest hazards we face in this day and age is wildfire.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Lack of water and rampant fire. Do you think the completion of the purple pipe will help lower some of that risk?
It'll be a different source, right? I think it could. I don't know that we're talking.
Yeah,
if
I
we
mean,
did
we
fill-
talked about, well, it would be nice to have, I don't know if they call them purple hydrants, but they're reused, so you know, it's different from the domestic side, but we talked if we can get them permitted through ecology, that we would put them probably along the purple pipe, most likely, because they do have fire camps up at the middle school, would be a perfect place,
Yeah.
because they usually draw from our fire hydrant. If we're low on water, that's, you know, that kind of strains our system. They've been able to go up to Eastern and draw right off of underneath the reservoir to that end. But yeah, if we had a purple, pipe there, to that end, and unless we're not allowed to reuse, we have to look into that. But it would be a permitted, use we could get from ecology.
Another thing, at least revenue side, I know it probably wouldn't generate a whole lot, but while we had our water restrictions in place, I noticed there was a fair amount of businesses and homeowners and stuff that were not abiding by that. Is there any way to assess fees when that happens, or to like, because again, that's kind of impacting all of us when you're not abiding by that, and it'd be nice to have some sort of incentive to encourage people to either follow that or pay when they're not following it.
Or maybe if we went to a water restriction, we just charge $10 a gallon.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That'll go over well.
Hey, reduce, reuse, like.
Yeah, I mean, we did the first go around, we were actually going out and telling people to shut off water and trying to find or put them on notice and everything else. And it just create just a lot of, you know, people were going after other people, you know, to that end. But yeah, I'm hopeful though that we won't have this, this problem next year as we fire up the purple pipe. There's two. There's our struggle right now, because we're low, it is because of the heavy use within the larger parks area in there. However, we also are still trying to get our well 5 PFAS. We are not turning that on. We've left it down. We should be getting some monies in from lawsuits for PFAS that we're proposing to go to well 4, which is the Sutton well, and look at a filter system. That's not a PFAS well, that is a turbidity well. And if we can filter that, we can bring that one back online. So hopefully in the next year or two, we can bring 2 more wells on and have our reuse problem, or reuse up and running. Then we should be able to rest wells when that high demand comes in, because it's really important if we rest a well, basically the water table comes up and then we can start pumping it down. But when we have this long pumping from, you know, May all the way to, you know, just a few weeks ago, and we can't shut any down because of the demand, it draws down that. Now, when we shut them off next year, we're going to be starting way high. So all the wells running, I think we'll come in about 24, or maybe with well 5 out, but we were probably coming in maybe about 21, 2200. And then just today, we're probably pushing 1600. And that's because we have to throttle back the pumping in order so we don't overshoot the water down below. That's a good explanation.
That's what I think a grant writer might be helpful with, is there's a lot of grants out there to help mitigate some of this, like the PFAS stuff as well. So definitely something we should be aggressive about.
Good stuff. What else? We're just focused on revenues today.
Yeah, I think just to give us a chance to, you know, meet with you, Mayor, and run through the department heads and the budgets and everything else as we go. Between now and when we really start this, I think we'll be talking probably in some in the council committees and everything else. But as you start seeing this stuff on your OneNote or whatever, please, if you have any questions, just give us a call if we want to sit down and kind of go over kind of what you're looking at or how that process works. Be happy. Well, I'll let Cindy be happy with maybe answering that, because she's the expert into the general fund. You can talk to me about utilities if you want. I'm pretty well versed on my budget, but there could be certain budgets that we'll bring the right people to the table to answer most of those questions.
Definitely encourage everybody to keep thinking about potential revenue generators. We'd rather see something that we can do than have to revert to raising taxes or raising utility rates to cover services, essential services.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's opportunity out there.
candidate really push for a grant writer will pay for itself.
Oh, yeah.
I guess keep in mind too with grants, I mean, I'm not opposed to grants, but we do have to understand the grant conditions.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's, you know, it pays for a year or two and then it's away, you know,
That's
so
all nice.
understanding the grant conditions, I think is certainly important, but no, I agree. I mean, a lot of civil engineering companies, we have grant staff of 10 people and that's why. I mean, it's good to throw a lot of applications out there.
In chatting with some grant writers, like they'll provide for, you know, obviously charge a fee, but they'll provide a matrix of assess our city, provide all the grants that are available, what the matches are. So then we can go through and be like, yes, we'd like to go after this one, but we have a whole picture as opposed to, you know,
If you have that information, you want to share it with me, I can certainly bring more information through.
There's a federal there's one of the federal websites. Also, like, it has a bunch of different things that you can type in and it'll spit out a list of things that you're eligible for or whatever. I always look at them from like the STEM side, but
There's
Sure, that
definitely,
for us.
definitely a definitive cycle, you know, whether it's streets and then water and sewer. I mean, it's cycles and usually the grant applications are typically, I mean, some of them it's open enrollment all year, but some of them are very fixed.
Yeah.
September or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Cindy, any final words?
Not for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other discussion? We
Paul?
good?
Paul's
Todd? Anything left?
Does anybody have their hand up? Sean?
no.
Nobody else wanted to stay here till 8.
Well, I want to make sure that we're,
Oh, no.
Time to discuss
yeah,
this.
no, This is
I-
good.
I
Good
thank
cut
you
out
for your
a long
time.
list of
I
things.
mean, like
Good
I
stuff.
say, this is about a budget process and a few of you are early, you know, new to this budget process and so it's a very large process. We don't want to overwhelm you, but definitely we're here to answer questions and anytime I'm happy to just do a 3-point slide and then we can have that discussion. So
Thanks, Todd.
hey,
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you, Todd, and this
Move to
meeting is
adjourn?
concluded.
Or
Oh,
conclude?
don't start.
Same.
All right, thank you.
Maybe do. Well, I kept my kid local for college, so hopefully that helps with generating some